let's face it, they've lost the war on drugs.
The statistics are in. Stop and searches save lives.
I don't understand why it is that I feel so strongly about this. Where did this come from? You're all a sack of shit, and I'm voted for none of you. Oh. That one has intrigued me.
I looked through the Reform Manifesto so that you don't have to. I'm Izzy.
And I'm Garcia.
Welcome to Informed.
Yeah, so obviously a lot's been happening with Reform lately, and it's looking like they might be the next party in power.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so shall I go over the 5 main points?
Sure.
And then I can go over the things that caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
So the main things that they're campaigning on. The first one is smart immigration, not mass immigration.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is no small boat. Well, each of these points has the word imagine at the front, to make it all
fancy and to capture.
Inspiring.
Do you know what it is? It's clickbait, but in booklet form.
Imagine no more small boats in the channel. That's number 2. Number 3, imagine no NHS waiting lists. No, I'm clickbaiting. I might as well just go all in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Number 4, imagine good wages for a hard day's work. And 5, imagine affordable, stable energy bills. So they're the 5 main ones that they're campaigning on. And obviously they break it down into details. So the first one is uncontrolled immigration has pushed Britain to a breaking point. So it goes through a lot of the things. So stopping the boats with our 4-point plan.
What's a 4-point plan, Izzy?
So the 4-point plan is leave the European Convention of Human Rights.
Of course.
0 illegal immigrants to be resettled in the UK.
That's not...
New Department of Immigration and pick up illegal migrants out of the boats and take them back to France. Yeah. Now, obviously, 0 illegal immigrants is going to be a tall order. But you can certainly reduce the number significantly.
Of course you can, but I just look at these things. I wonder how actually realistic reform is. Because Labour also came with their plans of greatness.
Yeah, but they didn't, though.
Before realism kicked in.
But they didn't, though, because we talked about the Labour Manifesto at the time. And there was nothing in there. There was nothing of any substance at all in there. There was nothing in there. Let's do this. How?
But then
that was the big question.
But that's what manifestos are. And it's the same with this one.
No.
Farage has already U-turned on a lot of his policies.
Well, this actually tells you what they're planning on doing.
Mm-hmm.
The Labour manifesto is we need to invest in the NHS. That was all they put.
I will accept that.
How much?
But in terms of immigration, though, they also had an immigration plan. Well, it wasn't a great plan, but they did have something.
Would you like me to go on with the immigration?
Go on.
They're going to bar student dependents. So introduce new visa rules for international students that bar dependents. So if you're an international student, you do not get to bring your mother to this country whilst you study, right? Stop health tourism and immediate access to benefits.
I didn't think that was a thing anyway.
It is a thing.
That you can get immediate access to benefits.
Yeah. We will impose a requirement of 5 years residency and employment to claim benefits in the UK.
I honestly didn't think that you could claim benefits. I think it's only if you have a child.
Maybe it's only if you come over on a boat.
Huh.
But
that's the asylum system.
Phones.
Yeah, the asylum system's one that we don't really know much about. It's very cloak and dagger, the asylum system, because they don't publish numbers. They don't have to give information on that. Immediate deportation for foreign criminals immediately after their prison sentence ends. Withdraw citizens from immigrants who commit crime with the exception of misdemeanor offences. So this is the serious stuff. No, I don't necessarily agree with that. Because let's say you've been here for like 80 years and you suddenly get dementia and you murder your wife and then suddenly you're... And well,
that's I think...
No, but that's a bit too broad.
That reminds me of the...
It does say with the exception of some misdemeanor offences.
I'm aware,
So
but
they
that wouldn't
put
be a
in-
misdemeanor. I question that in relation to the... what was it? It was the COVID... No, it wasn't the COVID laws. Well, yeah, the COVID laws are an excellent example of this, but the counter-terrorism laws as well, wherein it didn't start out as that and then ended up being that.
National insurance rate will raise to 20% for foreign workers.
So even though you understand how the economy works, you understand the economy is not growing at the rate it should, what you want to do is tax immigrants, so the people that come in to prop up the already now failing economy. Do you know what? Go on.
This will incentivise businesses to employ British citizens whose national insurance rate would stay at 13.8%. Essential foreign health and care workers will be exempt from this tax, as would businesses who employ 5 staff members and under. This would boost wages and would raise more than 20 billion over 5 years to pay for apprenticeships and training for young Brits.
Okay. I mean, I've not read this myself, as you know. So, but I think
That's all it says on that bit.
Yeah.
I read you the whole thing on that bit.
Right. Okay. So there's okay. Yeah.
So I think incentivising British workers to get people back to work, because there'll be incentives for businesses to do that. They've already said they're exempting all the people where they need like healthcare and stuff, and they're exempting small businesses. Businesses with 5 employees or less make up 80 to 85% of all businesses in the UK anyway.
I can see it being the corporation tax that should be, but then you're then taxing
idea.
But that's what I can see it being.
Corporation tax needs to go down.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It does.
I understand the argument that corporation tax needs to go down, but then look at what's happened in Ireland.
Corporation tax went up and then all the businesses left.
It did, but also at the same time, they didn't have the way that they used their money. When they had it, it didn't go well, and so now their economy is in a worse situation than ours is. The only good thing that they've got is that they're part of the EU.
A lot of this stuff as well is within the first 100 days.
Right, go on.
Okay, government spending. Bank of England must stop paying interest to commercial banks on QE reserves.
This is what I was talking to you about before with the government bonds and what the risk that they're taking. The Bank of England's slowing down the rate in which they are selling off the government bonds, but they're selling it at a massive loss. Through the COVID, they bought up. All countries did it. All countries bought up government bonds to try and keep the economy afloat. But Britain, in all its conservative wiseness, bought up more than any other country. So now that the economies are failing and the government bonds are going, they're having to sell them at a loss. So let's say I think they bought them for like 108, 109. They're selling them for 28.
Yeah. Okay, there's a Brexit one, obviously. Still, Britain still retains over 6,700 EU laws. Government red tape and nanny state regulations estimate to cost the UK economy 143 billion since 2015. This means billions lost in growth and taxes. So
I understand this, but we're also in a position worldwide. I'm very, very cautious of saying that we should. You know me, I don't believe in big government. However, the UK has landed itself in a situation whereby so much of the population relies on the nanny state and the welfare state, right? It's so big, it incorporates so much that it would be difficult to try to dismantle it without tanking the economy and bankrupting the country.
It would and it wouldn't. It depends on how it's done. Like, I don't think cutting EU regulation is going to have... It depends on what regulations cut.
Well, yeah, exactly. It depends on what regulations cut, and it also a lot of that is based in the fact that if we come out of the European Convention of Human Rights, that would cut down half those regulations.
Excellent.
Except some of that regulation is what stops us from doing stupid shit.
Yeah, well, I'm all down for coming out of the European Court of Human Rights. I think you are, and you are as well.
I'm allowed to change my mind. I am if there's a proposal for something better that incorporates things, but I'm not when it comes to if it means that we will be in a situation where we have no protections as citizens.
Yes, no, I agree with that. Okay, collect billions in unpaid tax. HMRC failed to collect tens of billions in taxes last year due to understaffing and bad management. Improved HMRC competence would deliver lower taxes to British workers.
They need to rework the tax system in this country anyway, because this country's tax system is designed to keep you down. It's not designed for you to make any money. It's designed for you to just be able to survive, and that's it. Unless you're an entrepreneur. That's the only person that this tax... Or you're already rich. This tax system doesn't actually serve you.
No.
Otherwise. If you have a look at tax systems around the world and what they do, look at the American tax system. It's bullshit. It's so complicated, but also it's
the UK
designed,
tax system is more complicated than the US.
But it's designed... And because we don't actually know... because obviously the government does our taxes. So... And then there's so many things that you can apply for that's tax exempt that you'll never know about because the government does our taxes. So we don't have the same level of information. But then on the flip side of that is that the government does our taxes. Do you know what I mean? We have to pay accountants to do that. We don't have that economy, but also we don't have that economy. Those are jobs that are lost because now more and more people are sacking staff because they can't afford to keep them. And part of that is because of the tax system.
So do you want to hear what Nigel Farage, Reform wants to do with the tax system?
I am, more than anything else, I'm more interested... immigration is going to happen one way or the other. I'm interested in the economy.
Okay, so lift the income tax start point to $20,000 per year. This frees up to 7 million people from paying income tax and saves every worker almost £1,500 per year. Basic tax rate stays at 20%. The higher rate of tax should begin at 70,000. I think that's a good idea. Especially when a lot of people, it's not beneficial for a lot of people that are on welfare to take jobs because they're losing time and they're losing money. Whereas if you increase the starting wage for taxes to 20,000,
I think that that's a good proposal. I was thinking more along the higher tax rate situation. I was thinking about how wages work in this country, how they're taxed, and how they've stagnated. But if you want to climb, because things are getting more expensive. If you want to climb, yeah. So
there's a lot of other.
Agree.
Yeah. Cut energy taxes, beat the cost of living crisis. Save households over £500 a year. Lower fuel duty tax by 20% a litre for both residential and business users. Scrap VAT on energy bills and scrap environmental levies.
I 100% agree with that. I'm a bit like the environmental levies, I'm a bit, but something's got to give. Something's got to give. And I will always say this, though, because it's one of those things that if we don't take care of our planet, it's certainly not going to take care of us. But on the selfish side of that, the selfish bill side of that things, because things are going up.
Electricity in the UK is the most expensive in Europe, one of the most expensive in the world.
Why? When it's the same electricity, and
it's got something to... Our electricity and our gas is tied heavily together.
Yep.
So when gas goes up, our electricity goes up because we need gas in order to get electricity.
But it's also because of where we get our gas and electric... our electric grid is all over the place, and it's... I was going to say... it's decrepit. It needs... We need infrastructure. We need infrastructure and development. And the fact is this, right? We don't utilise what we have well. We don't. And also private companies.
Ready for the next one?
Corporations are killing us, but also we're killing ourselves. Go on.
Cut residential stamp duty. Stamp duty should be cut to 0
for anything below the value of 750,000. Cut to 2% from 750 to 1.5 mil, and cut it to 4% for anything over 1.5 mil purchase price. And that's only on residential stamp duty, so people buying second or more homes, that stays intact. I think that's a good idea.
I do worry though about then. Well, it's residential stamp duty. I don't know how housing necessarily works, so I think that is it in a sense that if you are a foreign national, that you will then be taxed, because part of the problem in London, especially central London, is property being bought up by people that don't actually live in the country. Property is then staying empty, and then people can't afford it, just driving up the prices.
There's a lot of properties in a lot of countries around the world that do adopt this idea of if you're not a resident, you can't buy property, and I think that's something that we should adopt.
I think that it's something we should adopt too. Because I've always felt like this. I've always felt this way.
And the last one,
because then you don't pay taxes here.
Yeah, the last one, abolish inheritance tax for all estates up to 2 million.
I agree,
100%. And that means 98% of all estates. The rate above 2 million will be 20% tax, with the option to donate to charity instead.
But do you know what?
Which I think is a really good idea.
But do you know why? I don't know about the option to donate, because it's an option, so you don't have to. But also...
Yeah, but you either have the choice to either give it to charity or give it to the government, is what you're saying. But you have to give it to something.
Unless you start your own charity, and we know how the UK works. Let's
good point.
Be realistic here. But also at the same time... this would help with the farming situation.
Oh, there's a big section on farming. I'm going to get to that. And they're talking about corporation tax, free over 1.2 million small and medium-sized businesses from corporation tax. Lift the minimum profit threshold to 100,000. So you need to be earning more than 100,000 to get a corporation, to pay corporation tax, which encourages small businesses to flourish. I think that's a great idea. Lift the VAT threshold to 150,000. Support small and medium-sized businesses. Abolish business rates for high street-based SMEs. Offset this with online delivery tax of 4% for large multinational enterprises.
All right, so...
Reform the planning system. This is a big one. Fast-track new housing on brownfield sites and infrastructure projects to boost businesses, especially in coastal regeneration areas, Wales, the North and the Midlands.
I guess the only thing that I have with those development things, because at some point this week or last week, I'm not sure, Keir Starmer said that, well, Keir Starmer wants to build four new towns. Money. Sure, they're looking at investment, but they're building them on... There's so many sites that are unused. I know it said there to think about the brown sites...
Which is better than the greenfield.
It is, but also at the same time, are they building doctors? Are they building schools? Are they building community infrastructure?
We're coming to that.
But the thing is, I know we're going through their manifesto, right? But I don't want to take away from the fact that I don't want Reform to be I don't want them to be the next prime minister. I don't want Nigel Farage to be the next prime minister. Okay. I just don't want that. I don't want that for myself.
That's fair.
Go on.
It just depends on how ideologically driven people are, I suppose. It depends on how good the policies are, I think.
I don't think it matters how good the policies are anymore.
I don't think it's going to make a difference.
I think that we've come out of a point in politics. We've come out of a point in politics where policies matter. I don't think
so.
I think they keep them...
Digital IDs are policy.
Matter. Yes, but I mean policy to get you into power. Where now we've been in a populist society for quite some time. Okay, the fact is this: Nigel Farage is currently and Reform are popular because they are speaking to, they're speaking something into power that people can relate to because of the state of the country. That's the same with everyone. All right, the popular vote does count. But I think that we've gone from a point where I just honestly feel like we're just in a point where it doesn't really matter what they say in their manifesto, because much like Labour said, whatever the nonsense they said. They've not stuck to anything that they've said. The Conservatives before them stuck to hardly anything that they said. The immigration situation has been for quite some time.
Okay, the NHS. Now this one, I'm not going to lie. Now I know you said you don't trust anything that Reform say anyway, which is fair. But actually, I'm really happy with a lot of the stuff in the NHS. Like, if they do what they say they're going to do, and let's be honest, neither of us knows, because they're not Labour, they're not Tories. Neither of us, I mean, so we want about Nigel Farage, but he's never been in a public office, so we don't really know, do we? So, end doctor and nurse shortages. All frontline NHS and social care staff to pay 0 basic rate tax for 3 years. This will help retain existing staff and attract many who have left to return. End training caps for all UK medical students. Write off student fees pro rata per year over 10 years of NHS service for all doctors, nurses and medical staff.
Oh. That one has intrigued me. But do you remember back in 2008, 2009? No. Was it 2008, 2009? No, it must have been earlier than that. 2005, 6. Something like that. When Nick Clegg said that he would not do the tuition fees situation, and he was voted in. What did he do? Raise tuition fees. Do you remember when that happened?
I do remember when that happened.
So I'm very, very reluctant for anything that they say about student debt. Because that is money the state's already collecting. So you're trying to tell me that the state is going to lose it through being...
Use independent healthcare capacity. So harness independent and not-for-profit health provision in the UK and overseas.
We already do that.
They're
already fucked just like the NHS.
Tax relief of 20% on all private healthcare and insurance. So if you want to get health insurance, you get 20% tax relief, which I think is a good idea, actually.
I guess it's to encourage people to...
This will improve care for all by relieving pressure on the NHS. Those who rely on the NHS will enjoy faster, better care. Independent healthcare capacity will grow rapidly, providing competition and reducing costs.
But here's my part of that. My part of that is healthcare companies. Once you introduce this, or even if it becomes any kind of policy, because obviously these are just imagine ifs. So if it becomes any kind of policy, because that's the other thing, they're not promising anything. They're saying imagine if.
No, this is their contract with you. This is what we're going to do.
Okay, so
the first 5 points had imagine in it, but this is what we will do, and it will say.
Hold on, let me get my point out. If they do this because of the greed of the nation, insurance companies and healthcare, independent healthcare, will go up significantly.
Right. Cool. Great.
So that how is that helping people afford it in a situation where they still have no money? It's not going to change the fact that... do you think if people could afford independent healthcare, they'd have it?
The price of things will go up? No.
How so?
That's not true, because the more competition you have, the lower the prices are. Just look at laser eye surgery. When that first came out, it was 30 grand an eye. Now you can get it for like 1 or 2 grand.
That's true, but the insurance industry in this country, in terms of physical health, is not as massive as, say, somewhere in America. So
true, but there's like 4 or 5 major health insurers in this country. If there was 10 or 15, then prices would be a lot cheaper.
But I agree, I understand that. But even those 10 or 15, even if you got 10 or 15, the country's not big enough for the population size to be able to afford it, even with this encouragement, because of the actual realistic state of the economy, wages, and even with those changes, because if you come in 2026, no, our election's not later than that.
But the whole point isn't to, well, I suppose it is to reduce insurance costs. But if that helps take pressure off the NHS, I'm down for it.
I understand that. But realistically, all right, it's not going to take any pressure off the NHS in the short term. And I know that we look at things in long term. And even if you're looking at it in the long term, okay, wages would have to catch up to and that's not going to take a 5-year, 10-year span. You're looking at the wage depreciation in this country has gone on for the last 20 years.
I think a lot of people as well haven't ever looked into private healthcare. There's different.
Of course, there are different
things,
levels. Unless you've got pre-existing conditions. Oh, okay, go on.
A lot of people in this country haven't really looked into how much it's going to cost them. So if the mainstream media put out, in some alternate reality where Nigel Farage is suddenly the Prime Minister, you are no longer paying taxes or private health insurance. People just love the word free. Of course more people are going to sign up. Of course that's going to take the burden off the NHS. Even if prices go up, people go, oh, free, oh, no tax, oh, yeah, I'll have me a bit of that. They will.
I don't.
A lot of people don't have private healthcare because they don't know how much it costs and stuff like that.
But some people, I understand that, but a lot of people genuinely do not have private healthcare because they already pay into the NHS.
Exactly, and the people that want to continue using the NHS are going to continue using the NHS. This is just one facet of multiple things that's going to help take the burden off the NHS.
I understand that, but how is Joe Bloggs from down the street, right, who works in a factory?
I didn't say every single person is going to
I'm aware of what you're saying, which is not every single obviously that's, but if you're looking at wanting to take the pressure off, right? So let's say nurse then, fine, not Joe Bloggs from down the street. Let's say a band 7 nurse who makes about, actually I have no idea how much they make. I have no idea how much I make. So let's say like they're making 50,000, all right? We're in a position where you can't yet, because you've already said it about I don't even know why I'm arguing this point, but I'm going to, because I've already started down this road. You've already changed various different things in the country over the course of time, because we don't want to crash the economy, circa Liz Truss. So you can't just go in and change everything, all right? You can't just suddenly say that we're not going to collect this money from student fees or whatever. It will start from the next lot that are paying student fees. It wouldn't be retroactive. None of these things are retroactive. All right?
No, it says that over the next 10 years.
Yeah, over the next 10 years or so. But over the next 10 years, you're then going to end up in a situation wherein you'll still have, because obviously, the population situation, you'll still have a lot of elderly people. But they're not going to be like elderly people that we have now that maybe have a bit more money in their pockets, because for the last 50 years
what's this got to do with?
I'm talking about private healthcare in terms of who's going to be able to afford that at that cost without having to rely on the NHS. It's not going to take anything. I don't think it's going to actually take the pressure off anything. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's going to...
I think it's going to help a little bit. It doesn't have to be a massive amount, because all of these things are a little bit.
Of course, and every little helps.
Incentivizing people to use private healthcare. I generally don't understand what the argument against that is.
I don't want to dismantle the NHS.
The NHS isn't being dismantled.
I feel like it already is. I think all of these manifestos...
That's what Labour were doing.
They're chipping away at the NHS.
A&E, cut waiting times with a campaign of pharmacy first, GP second, A&E last. Offer tax incentives for new pharmacies and those who employ more staff to assist in relieving pressure on A&E.
Okay.
And they want to do an excess deaths and vaccine harms public inquiry. Excess deaths are nearly as high as they were during the COVID pandemic. Young people are overrepresented. Anyway,
I can see that, but I think they need to have a look at the mental health crisis in this country as well, then, and where those deaths are coming from, and how those deaths are coming. So, and I don't like the idea.
That's the whole point of the inquiry.
No, I know, but this country does too many inquiries, and then there's no outcomes. I'm sick of public funds going to inquiries. Sorry.
Yeah, with nothing to show for it.
Inquire all you'd like.
Scrap net zero and related subsidies. Scrap the annual £10 billion of renewable energy subsidies. Achieve this through equivalent taxes on them. Renewables are not cheaper. Our bills have increased dramatically. Clean energy from new technology. So fast track cleaner nuclear energy with new small modular reactors built in Britain to increase and incentivise ethical UK lithium mining for electric batteries, combined cycle gas turbines, clean synthetic fuel, all that kind of thing.
I want to agree, but the environmentalist in me
I think it's a great idea.
disagrees.
I think it's a great idea.
I do think it's good. I do think that we need to have a look at our green energy. We need an actual plan of that. We need to actually be utilizing what we have. We're an island. We actually need to be doing those things and stop ruining things. Wind turbines are great because it's a windy place. However, it doesn't get as much electricity. It doesn't garner as much energy as people think it. They're not aesthetically pleasing.
They're not even.
They're not environmentally friendly either because they're made from material that does it. Look, I want us to keep things like recycling. They get that comes under a green subsidy. I want those things to be kept because in a country where the bins, well, up here where I live, the bins get emptied once every
2 weeks.
2 weeks, thank you. But your recycling gets recycled every week. It keeps down the vermin issue. But also at the same time, we just need to be looking at this. We need to look at how we're going to do this. Because also the councils will be affected by this because they get green subsidies. These councils cannot afford to lose any more money, or council tax is going to be more expensive than rent.
So this is where it gets onto the law and order. There's a lot of big red flags on here for me. Mm-hmm. I agree with pretty much everything they've said about the NHS, the economy. I think they're all fantastic ideas, but this is kind of a bit of a sticking point for me. Increased police. Yeah, reasonable. 40,000 new frontline officers over a 5-year parliament is what it says. Fine. Clamp down on all crime and antisocial behaviour. Fine. Increase stop and search substantially. Fine.
I don't agree with that.
It reduces knife crime. It just reduces knife crime.
Go on.
I was talking to a police officer in Manchester, and I asked him, and he was like, of all the stop and searches we did in Manchester, a third of the people we stopped and searched out were carrying knives.
Which means that 2/3 weren't carrying.
But you can't just walk around and just stop random people on the street. You need a reason. So if somebody's reported this person's whatever, it's against the law and always has been to randomly just stop people in the street.
But it happens.
It might happen, but people also get arrested.
It happens a lot more than it happens a lot more than you think, and it's who's being stopped and searched, and it's how they're utilising this, and it's over policing, and there's various different parts of this that are. It's not just as simple as just stopping and searching people. They use those powers abusively a lot of the times, and they use them on mental health patients a lot as well, which is you're not stopping and searching them because of you're supposed to have reasonable cause, but what reasonable cause do you have when somebody's not actually committing there's loads of different nuanced parts to this. There always is with policing.
But the fact that a third of the people you stop in Manchester, can't speak for anyone else in the country, in Manchester, that shows that it's working.
But we're not in a situation wherein we have state law.
No, I don't know the statistics for London.
Yeah, but there's also, look at Birmingham. No, I don't know the statistics for any of them, including Manchester. Look at Birmingham. That's always been quite crime-ridden. It's becoming more so, and they've stopped even using...
Stop and search.
They've stopped sending police. We need more police, but we also...
if people are stabbing each other...
We need more...
Then I don't see... I understand that it's got problems. Every policy have problems, but at the end of the day, if it saves, and the statistics are in, stop and searches save lives.
In Manchester?
Across the country.
I've not seen any of those statistics yet.
If you look at because they stopped stop and search quite a few years back. You can look at the data of knife crime before and knife crime after. Go have a look.
Anyway, go on.
Okay, prison for violent crimes and possessing a knife. Fine. Drug dealing and trafficking. Now, I'm not sure... Drug trafficking, fair enough, will get mandatory life imprisonment. But it also says drug dealing will get mandatory life imprisonment.
No.
And that's a real grey area as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you're going to send somebody selling like 10 bags
exactly.
to prison for life because of that? No, that ain't going to stop your drug problem. Drug trafficking.
And yes. what if somebody... I think we agree on that. Drug trafficking, fine. Like, what if
some rando, because mushrooms grow quite profusely in the UK, decides to go on a day's mushroom picking, bumps into me walking home and goes, "Oh, I got some," and I'm like, "Oh, tenner, yeah, right. Oh, just because it's you, but the rest are for me." Is that drug dealing? Well, technically it's drug dealing.
Technically it's drug
Is that
dealing.
life imprisonment?
I don't think that's life imprisonment. You know what I mean?
Weed? Are they going to be doing it in classes?
Are they now going to go back to the war on drugs because they lost it? Because let's face it, they've lost the war on drugs. Look how many people smoke weed.
Yeah.
The UK, we did an episode on this. The UK is the world's biggest drug dealers. They export more marijuana than any other country. Legally.
Because the pharmaceutical companies make it and ship it overseas.
Yeah, and they legally do this, but they will stop the people from doing it.
There needs to be more specification in this as to whether we're talking about Class A's or Class C's. Drug dealing, significant amounts of cocaine and heroin and spice and ketamine to young vulnerable people and doing it fair enough.
A lot of the young people are dying of ketamine now. Ketamine use. Ketamine bladder.
Fair enough. I'm 100% in favour of life imprisonment for these people. You're getting no question, no argument with me, but it's not specific enough for my liking, that bit, because I don't want it to include things like.
I'm not in prison. I'm not in. I'm not in favour for drug trafficking of these things. I'm in favour of life imprisonment. For drug dealing of these things, I think we need a more nuanced law, because we're in a situation in this country where county lines is a thing. County lines are gang culture, where people are forcing young people or force young people to go and sell these things or take them across the country or something like that. County lines wouldn't be a thing if these things weren't real. Do you know what I mean? So we need more nuances on that. And don't forget, the age of criminal consent in this country is 10.
More bobbies on the beat.
Yes.
Fair enough. Get rid of the 2-tier policing system. Agree with.
I agree with, but I see what that looks like.
Depoliticise the College of Policing. Fine. Agree with that. 100%. Justice system. Life imprisonment for violent repeat offenders. But they classify repeat violent offenders as those committing a second violence or serious offences will receive mandatory life sentences. Oh, there's a bit about change the definition of hate crime so that people can't be policed for tweets, which, great.
Fine.
Pardon?
Fine. Go on.
The budget is almost the same as it was 10 years ago. Increase it from 10 billion to 12 billion to ensure more high caliber staff, to cut delays, reopen local magistrate courts, to clear the case backlog.
Okay, that was that was the point I was going to make, which is, all right, so you want to invest in places to put them, but who's going to put them there?
Well, he's covered that as well.
Yeah, he's covered that.
Yeah. Okay. Make child grooming aggravated a 10 offence. Deport where possible if they're foreign. Improve safeguarding of victims and vulnerable, and no bail for grooming gang offenders, because at the minute they get bail, which is ridiculous. And again, this one's a little bit vague as well. Tackle youth crime. Reopen high intensity training camps.
No. For youth.
For young offenders to teach basic education, teamwork and values. Similar thing to what you were saying, that in terms of military service for like young people between 16 and 18. I know you're super in favour of that. It'd be a similar sort of thing.
I'm still in favour of it, but it's still problematic, because I don't agree with putting high intensity camps. I don't want to put young offenders in camps. That is a slippery slope. We already have young offenders institutes. We already have young offenders prisons.
So it's the fact that they're young offenders. You think it should be for everybody and not just specific people?
Yeah, I don't think that you should be. I think that's a slippery slope. Are you saying that you're putting them in the military boot camp against their will? What are we saying here? I need more information.
Isn't that what military service would be, against their will, when you said everybody between 16 and 18? Isn't that what you're advocating for?
No, I advocated. I said that it would be a good idea, but I also at the time said that it would be problematic for the simple fact that Not everybody wants to be there. There's a lot of abuse that happens in the army. The MOD is not prepared to even they can't sort out themselves at keeping their own soldiers alive. How the hell are they going to do this? And when you bring in staff to then train, most of abuse by anyone in a care setting or that kind of setting is actually performed by the people that are supposed to be overwatching. So even though they're young offenders, the problem with offenders in this country, it's a problem, but it's also part of the problem, is that we don't treat them like human beings, but also at the same time, we treat them too much like human beings. It's a very ridiculous place. We need to understand that children are children, but also the age of criminal responsibility is 10. Are we trying to reform and get them back into society, or are we trying to punish?
And then they talk, I don't want to go into it, there's educational reform. Benefit system is broken. Enforce a 2-strike rule for job offers. All job seekers and those fit to work must find employment within 4 months or accept a job after 2 offers, otherwise benefits are withdrawn. Personal independent payment and work capability assessment should be face-to-face.
I agree. I do think that it should be face-to-face. But then who's doing the assessing?
And then it also says lifting the income tax start point to 20 grand per year. Motivate up to 2 million people back to work. Reforms to benefit, support and training will help people back to work, particular focus on 16 to 34-year-olds. Employment is critical to improving mental health. Tax relief for businesses that undertake apprenticeships.
Employment is essential for growing the business, because if you cannot tax the poor, who's going to prop up the economy?
Excuse me?
Employment is important for the economy, because if you cannot tax the poor, who's going to prop up the economy?
The rich. They pay more taxes.
Overall, yes, but in terms of... But the poor still pay a lot of tax. The middle classes do pay a lot of tax. And I sort of feel like...
but one of the things on this is increase the income tax start point to 20,000.
Oh, yeah, you said that.
Right?
Okay. So...
And it's all well and good saying, well, if people... it's not as simple as well, that's, you know, between 12.5 grand, what it is currently, and 20 grand, this is all the money that the government will lose. It doesn't work like that.
Go on.
So if somebody, like, has got an extra £500 a year in their bank account, right, that then money is going to go get spent on other things, which then gets taxed, which goes on to wherever it is, and the people that gain more money from that employment, from that purchase, that have sold them that product, that gets taxed and all this kind of thing. So you hear this argument a lot, where a lot of people say things like, yeah, but if you tax, you know, people less, then that somehow means all of the amount of money that you've taxed less is going to not end up in the government. That it doesn't work like that. So I think putting more liquid income, liquid money back into people's pockets is a really good idea, because it's one of the things that helps boost the economy. So yeah,
it is one of the things that boosts the economy, but it's not. All right, so we're in a position in this country wherein I know that they started at the beginning with wages. Did they mention? Yeah, they mentioned wages and income tax and all the rest of it. This, I can see how, given our current economic situation, that could work if all the stars come together, I guess. But it's the same with every other manifesto. Have we finished? Is that it for the manifesto?
And then they've put it in a nice little table with how much each thing is going to cost. Right at the end, savings and costs. And then there's the farming stuff, which sounds, increase the farming budget to 3 billion, scrap climate-related farming subsidies, protect country sports, stop supermarket price fixing, help farmers sell their products directly to the public, change planning laws to support farm shops with zero business rates, buy British, buy quality, target 70% to ensure food security, taxpayer-funded organisations should source 75% of their food from the UK, clear labelling for consumer choice, boost smaller food processors and abattoirs through tax breaks and other incentives. Many farmers spend over 15 hours a week on paperwork, cut red tape from HMRC and the British Cattle Movement Service.
I can see how it sounds so great, but we don't produce.
But there's also stuff in there about how we need to focus on more farming the land, less on rewilding, stuff like that. So there is other stuff that it does mention, but that's just a brief overview.
I understand that. I guess what I worry about how realistic any of these things are. I know that they're just an overview of things and various different things in their policies, but I wonder how actually realistic these things are, because this country doesn't produce excuse me, hardly anything these days. We don't. I know that the government has just pledged like 1.5 billion to save. Is it Scarborough Steel or something like that? Some steel plant. Oh, is it Jaguar? I feel like it's Land Rover Jaguar. We need to get to. We need to go more protectionist. I don't understand why we're not doing. But then
protectionist, like 70%.
I know, but we need to do so realistic. We can't do so with the amount of ties that we have currently to the outside world, where our food comes from, we
and there's a bit about British fisheries as well. Stop foreign people from fishing in British food. There was a big section on that.
I agree with.
Increase the limit of what people can fish on.
I'm laughing because you mentioned the British fisheries, because you know how I feel about the fisheries. I don't understand why it is that I feel so strongly about this. Where did this come from? Where did this start?
You know what? At the end of the day, we're an island. We should be playing to our strengths, and our strengths are fundamentally fishing. So foreign countries that want to fish in our waters have to pay us a fee to do so. Yep. Right? That's basic common sense. Yeah, it wasn't in any other manifesto other than the Reform Manifesto.
Well,
added bonus as well of not being Labour.
Do you know what?
So that's the basic overview.
This is the first time in a long time that I know I've not voted for any of the main parties for quite some time, but this is the longest in a long time that I just look at all of them and think you're all a sack of shit, and I'm voting for none of you. I'll be voting for whoever the independent local guy is.
Fair.
Because I just can't see it. More and more Brits are leaving. All they've done is write down an idea that's already enforced, but they can't get it to work. For me, there's a lot of their ideas are like that. But there's nothing wrong with it, and I sort of think it's better than something is better than nothing. And let's be honest, if you look at the way that polling's going, Reform will probably be the next party in power.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been Garcia.
We'll see you in the next one. Let us know what you guys think. Obviously, I've picked out some of the points that we agree with, we don't agree with. Some of the bits, for the sake of time, an hour in, sake of time, I didn't mention. Let us know if there's anything that you thought that we didn't mention, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our views. That's the point of the conversation. Join in.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.